9. Welcome back to the plants unit. Today we're looking at the question, how do plants transport nutrients? So at the top of your page, please can you put your driving question, how do plants transport nutrients? And your keywords for today's lesson are vascular bundle, transpiration, translocation, xylem, phloem, capillary, lignin, impermeable, sources, sinks, rate, stomata, gradient, and diffusion. Wow, it's quite a lot there. I suppose the new ones for a lot of you will be translocation, very similar to transpiration. Vascular bundle, meaning well, you know what a bundle is? It's a bunch of things, but vascular is all to do with transport. And so like our vascular system, you could say could be our veins and arteries. Plants have one too. It's slightly different though. Impermeable means you cannot permeate it, so things can't move through it. Sources and sinks we'll go into in a bit, and hopefully the rest we will have come across before. Phloem is the vascular tissue for sugars. We've already looked at xylem, which is an example. Hey, what are we doing? We are looking at the plant unit because almost every ecosystem and animal depends on plants for energy. By understanding how plants work, we can improve the yield of crops and help protect our environment. Right, your starter questions are here. Please pause the video, have a read. Again, you don't have to write your answers down, but it might help to put it on scrap paper. We'll go through the answers when you unpause the video. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. What do plants get from the soil? Well, largely water for photosynthesis and keeping the cells turgid, but also dissolved mineral ions. So other nutrients and minerals are also absorbed by the roots. Hopefully we got that from the lesson the other day. What do plants get from the air? Well, that would be carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. And what's the word and symbol equation? Hopefully this has been drummed in by now. We've done this so many times. Hopefully we know it. Water and carbon dioxide are the reactants for the chemical reaction that is photosynthesis, and glucose and oxygen are the products. Okay, how many waters? 6. How many carbon dioxides? 6. How many glucoses? Just 1. And how many oxygens? 6 as well. Okay. So today's driving question is all about how do plants transport things around. Well, there are actually specialized tissues for this. Okay, and let's look at a cross section of a stem. If you got a stem and you chopped it like a cucumber, I suppose, and you looked down it, you would see this kind of ring-shaped pattern. This is called the vascular bundle. Okay, and it is made up of xylem and phloem tissue. We talked about xylem before. Some of you will remember that xylem is for transporting water up and down the plant. Phloem has got a similar job, as it is also transporting stuff up and down the plant, but it is for transporting sugars. Okay, this transports the nutrients from the roots up to the rest of the plant. So that would be the xylem we saw yesterday. And the nutrients make in the leaves go down to the rest of the plant. So the phloem are how the plant transports the sugars and whatnot that's produced in the leaves. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the water and the xylem. Why does water move up through the plant? Well, it's transpiration. Okay. When stomata let in carbon dioxide, water also evaporates from the mesophyll layer and diffuses out of the cell. This is called transpiration. We've seen this already. So how does this pull water up? Well, it's because of the hydrogen bonds, the sticky nature of the water pulls the water up. After it evaporates, water moves up to replace that water, and therefore can, through osmosis, move into the roots where it is left. So it moves up through the xylem. This is the vascular tissue. This is the transport tissue that the plants have. Right, xylem are specialized tubes throughout the plant found in the stems and the veins of the leaves. They are made from tough, dead, specialized cells that together form hollow, continuous tubes designed for water transport. So basically, the plumbing. This also pulls water up and out of the cells of the roots. The xylem also transports dissolved mineral ions from the soil up to where they are needed. Okay, so water is not the only thing that moves through the xylem. So too are dissolved mineral ions. So things like salts. Let's have a closer look at the xylem then. The xylem consists of elongated, dead cells arranged end to end to form continuous tubes. So although if you looked at a section of a xylem, it would look like it's just one continuous tube. It is actually made up of multiple cells, dead cells, that are joined together. The cells contain no cytoplasm and they are impermeable to water. So this is the word that AQA use. So you do need to recognize it, but it basically means they're waterproof. Okay, so water can't seep out of them once it's inside the tube, and they're made of lignin. So this is another key word for today's lesson, lignin, and it's the chemical that's in wood that gives it its strength, I suppose. It in fact it is a carbohydrate, so like a sugar, but you imagine one that doesn't dissolve and is really tough. Okay, very difficult to digest. People can't eat lignin, which is why you might want to spit out the woody husks of nuts and things. You can't eat lignin, okay, and sorry, you can't digest lignin, and this is what the xylem tubes are made out of. Okay, so the key points: no cytoplasm, the cells are dead, it's waterproof, and it's made of this tough molecule, lignin. Right, quiz time. What is not true about the xylem? Read the boxes A, B, C, and D and decide which one does not apply to xylem. Okay, hopefully you've had a think of that now. The answer is D. Xylem transports water and sugar through the plant. That's not true. It is only water that it transports, but all the others are true. Okay, how are the products from leaves transported around the plant? So this is, I suppose, the other use of the vascular bundle. So far, we've seen that water and ions move upwards. How does stuff get back down again? And how does the products from the leaves get transported? Well, not transpiration this time, but translocation. This is a key word for today's lesson, and it means the movement of sucrose or sugar and amino acids through the phloem. Okay, right. Sucrose is a sugar that is made from glucose. Okay, it might be what we recognize most as sugar. Okay, it's a it's a simple sugar made out of glucose. So that is how the plant transports the glucose that it's made in the leaves. So for instance, if growth has to happen in the roots, it needs sugar, but roots don't do photosynthesis, so it must receive the sugar through the transport system. The other thing that it transports are amino acids. Now, some of you might know that amino acids are the building blocks for proteins. Now, living things, especially plants and animals, are made of proteins and so require amino acids when they grow. Okay, so when there's growth, plants need sugar and amino acids. These are made in the leaves and are transported by translocation through the phloem. The sugars move from sources to sinks. This is how we describe where they come from and where they go. So a source is, you might have guessed, where they make things. Like a source of glucose in the plant is where the glucose is made, and that is in the leaves then. Slightly harder one to remember is it moves to the sinks. Now a sink is somewhere where you store things. So translocation moves products from where they're produced to where they're stored. So for instance, a potato is a store of sugars. in the plant. They store it as starch. Potatoes are underground, they're away from where all the sugars are made, and so translocation moves those sugars from the leaves down to the sinks, which are the potatoes. That's the example. A little bit more complicated. Translocation occurs through the phloem. Now, the phloem consists of living cells arranged end to end. So similar to the xylem, as that they do form tubes, but the phloem are made of living cells this time. Okay, these cells do contain cytoplasm. And because obviously these cells are living, they require chemical reactions, and the cytoplasm is where the chemical reactions happen. And the cytoplasm can pass between the cells. Okay, the phloem cells can transport things between them. Also, it is not a continuous tube. There are these permeable membranes, I suppose, that allow the sugary solution to move through it up and down both ways. But it is not a continuous tube, I suppose. It's a living part of the plant. Okay. Have a read of these boxes and decide which one of these is not true about the phloem. Okay, hopefully you've had a think of this. The answer is B. It doesn't move from sink to source, but rather sources to sinks. Okay, the source is where it's made, and the sink is where it is stored. Although phloem can move the products, the sugars and amino acids in both directions, that is a big difference between xylem and phloem. It doesn't move from the sink to the source again, and therefore that's the wrong one. Okay, time to think, pair, share. Unfortunately, you obviously aren't going to have your partners, your lab partners in where you are today. So what I'd like you to do is to go and interrupt somebody. Maybe it could be parents or siblings or pets or anybody you can get your hands on, really. And I'd like you to tell them the similarities and differences between xylem and phloem. You might have to describe what they are to them. They might not know this in the first place. I don't want you to write down your answers. You could make a couple of notes on some scrap paper if you want to have some notes with you, but I don't want you to fully write your answer down just yet. But I want you to say out loud, as much as you can remember, the similarities and differences, please, between xylem and phloem. Okay, good luck. Go teach some people things. Best way to learn. Right, hopefully you've come back, you've had a nice conversation. And I'd like to show you some of my similarities and differences that I can remember that I've written down. Okay, some similarities between both of them. They're both found in the vascular bundle, and this is that kind of ring that you would see if you were to make a cross section of a stem. Both are for transporting nutrients, both contain specialized cells, and both are found throughout the plant, so in the root, the stem, and the veins in the leaves. There are lots of differences, however. Phloem are used for translocation, whereas xylem are used for transpiration, or the transpiration stream. Xylem carries water and mineral ions, whereas the phloem carries sugar and amino acids. Xylem transports nutrients up the plant, whereas the phloem transports nutrients from source to sink, which could be down the plant or up the plant. Phloem contain living cells with cytoplasm, whereas xylem cells are dead and contain no cytoplasm. The xylem cells also contain lignin, whereas the phloem cells do not. Okay, so there we are. That's my summary of the similarities and differences between xylem and phloem. Right, time for the writing phase. Please can you make sure that you are using full sentences in your answers, good grammar, and that you're using full paragraph format on this one. If you haven't got the driving question written, please can you make sure you've got that underlined with the date to keep your work organised. And as always, I'd like you to start with the describe section, then into the explain, then the use, then the combine. So your describe question is describe the function of xylem and phloem. The second one is to explain the difference between transpiration and translocation. Use is to explain how xylem and phloem tissue are adapted for their function. And combine is compare the similarities and differences of xylem and phloem. Okay. Fortunately, the keywords are missing. You might have to go back to a previous slide to write those down. But yeah, so good luck with these questions. Pause the video, give yourself between 10 and 15 minutes on this one. Good luck, year 9. Okay, hopefully you're back now after having a go at these, and let's have a look at some answers. Right, green pens at the ready. This is so you can give yourself tips for when you're right, but also write in the correct answers. Add in the extra detail that you're missing. If you don't have a green pen, you can use any colour. Okay, describe section. The xylem transports water and mineral ions around the plant. It moves these from the roots up to the rest of the plant. The phloem transports sugars as well as amino acids from the leaves to the rest of the plant. Translocation is the movement of sucrose and amino acids through the phloem from the leaves to the rest of the plant. Or you could have said from the sources to the sinks. Transpiration, however, the transpiration stream is the movement of water and dissolved mineral ions through the xylem from the roots to the rest of the plant. Right, a little bit more detail about these then. The xylem consists of elongated dead cells arranged end to end that form a continuous tube. The cells contain no cytoplasm, they're impermeable to water, and they're made of tough lignin. The phloem, however, consists of living cells arranged end to end. The cells do contain cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm may pass between the cells. Right, and some similarities and differences. These are the same as the ones that I've written down before. Both can be found in the vascular bundle, both are for transporting nutrients, both contain specialized cells, and both are found throughout the plant. The differences are that phloem is for translocation, whereas xylem is for transpiration stream. Xylem carries water and mineral ions, whereas the phloem carries sugar and amino acids. The xylem transports nutrients up the plant, whereas the phloem transports the nutrients from source to sink, which is away from the leaves and usually down towards the roots. Phloem contain living cells with cytoplasm. Xylem cells are dead and contain no cytoplasm. The xylem cells contain lignin, and phloem do not. Okay, so much information in this lesson today. I'm really impressed, making it to the end. Well done. Right, as always, you've got to write your today I've achieved sentence. Please can you use the words describe, explain, use, or combine in this to fill in the blank, and you must say why. If you've achieved a grade 1 to 2 today, it means that you've been able to describe the function of xylem and phloem. For grade 3 to 4, you can explain the difference between transpiration and translocation. Grades 5 to 6, you can explain how xylem and phloem tissue are adapted for their function. And if you've been working out a 7 to a 9 for today's lesson, you are able to compare the similarities and differences of the xylem and phloem. Okay. Pause the video, write a couple of write your sentence, please. Okay, and that's it for today. You have don't forget, please, that you've got a 10 question share my homework quiz. This will test you on whether you can remember the differences really today. Well done. I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.